My daughter demanded I run as soon as his flight took off, so I left, and that's when the moment my husband's plane took off, my daughter begged me to run. I didn't know then that he was the reason, and his double life was about to explode, taking our entire world with it. The digital clock on our nightstand read 4:17 a.m. when Jonas kissed me goodbye. I pretended to be asleep, keeping my breathing even as his lips brushed my forehead. I'd always been a light sleeper, but after 7 years of marriage to a man whose work took him away from home at least twice a month, I'd perfected the art of seeming unconscious during these pre-dawn departures. "Love you," he whispered, his breath warm against my skin. I waited until I heard the soft click of our bedroom door before opening my eyes. Through the window, I watched headlights flare as Jonas backed his Audi out of the driveway. Montreal this time. Another logistics conference. Another week of solo parenting. I pulled the comforter up to my chin, willing myself back to sleep for the precious 2 hours before Evie's alarm would go off. Sleep didn't come. Instead, I found myself doing what I always did when Jonas left, taking inventory of our life together. The spacious colonial, the private school for Evie, the annual vacations, the mutual funds. Everything so perfectly arranged, so carefully cultivated. Sometimes I wondered if I'd dreamed it all into existence. By 6:30 a.m., I was in the kitchen preparing Evie's favorite breakfast. Banana pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse ears. I heard her padding down the stairs, her footsteps light against the hardwood. "Morning, sunshine," I called out, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "Is Daddy gone?" she asked, climbing onto a stool at the kitchen island. At 6 years old, Evie was all big eyes and quiet observation. Sometimes it unnerved me how much she seemed to absorb. "Yep, left for his trip this morning. He'll be back on Friday." I slid a plate in front of her. "Eat up, kiddo. We need to leave in 20 minutes. As Evie ate, I moved around the kitchen, tidying up. Something glinted on the counter, near the coffee maker. Jonas's watch. The Omega I had given him for our 5th anniversary. He never traveled without it. In fact, he'd once made us turn around halfway to the beach because he'd forgotten it at home. I picked it up, running my thumb across the smooth face. "That's weird," I murmured. "What's weird, Mommy?" Evie asked, mouth full of pancake. "Daddy forgot his watch." I slipped it into my pocket. "I'll put it somewhere safe until he gets back." After dropping Evie at Oak Ridge Elementary, I stopped for coffee at the local cafe. My phone pinged with an email as I waited in line, a confirmation from the Hotel Bonaventure in Montreal. Jonas had checked in. I smiled, oddly relieved. It was a habit of his, forwarding me these confirmations, so I wouldn't worry. The day passed in the usual blur of errands and household management. I was folding laundry when I heard the front door open and Evie's voice call out, "We're home." Nicole Hartley, my neighbor and closest friend, had picked Evie up from school as part of our carpool arrangement. Nicole appeared in the doorway of the laundry room, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun, a yoga mat slung over her shoulder. "Thanks for getting her," I said, setting down a half-folded towel. "No problem." Nicole leaned against the door frame. "Everything okay? You look tired." "Just the usual single-parent week ahead," I said with a forced smile. "Jonas left for Montreal this morning." Something flickered across Nicole's face. "Montreal? Are you sure?" "Yes. Why?" "Nothing," she straightened up. "I thought I saw him at Riverside Cafe around lunchtime, but I must be mistaken." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. "You must be. He texted me from the airport, and I got his hotel check-in confirmation." Nicole nodded, but her expression remained uncertain. "Well, I better get going. Dinner to make. You know how it is." After she left, I stood in the silent laundry room, replaying her words. It wasn't possible. Jonas was in Montreal. I had proof. Yet a tiny seed of doubt had been planted, and I couldn't shake it. I was making dinner when Evie appeared at my side, tugging on my sleeve. Her face was solemn, eyes wide with an emotion I couldn't quite place. "We have to go," she whispered. "Go where, sweetie?" I asked, stirring the pasta sauce. "Away. We have to leave." Her voice dropped even lower. "Daddy said you would understand." The wooden spoon froze mid-stir. "What do you mean? When did Daddy say this?" Evie shrugged, looking down at her feet. "I don't know, but we can't stay in the house tonight." I crouched down to her level. "Evie, honey, did you have a bad dream about Daddy? Or did he actually tell you something?" "Not a dream." Her lower lip trembled. "Please, Mommy. I'm scared." I pulled her into a hug, my mind racing. "There's nothing to be scared of. We're safe here. This is our home." But even as I spoke the words, I felt a prickle of unease. First Nicole's strange comment, now Evie's inexplicable fear. It was probably nothing, a misunderstanding, a child's imagination running wild. Still, after dinner, I found myself at Jonas's desk, opening his laptop. The password screen glowed back at me. I tried our anniversary date. Access denied. Evie's birthday. Nothing. My birthday. No luck. On a hunch. I typed in his mother's maiden name, followed by the year we met. The screen unlocked. I clicked through his folders, feeling like an intruder in my own marriage. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until I spotted a folder labeled K2. It contained dozens of PDF documents, shipping manifests, customs declarations, invoices for companies I'd never heard of. The language was dense, full of logistics jargon I didn't understand. I was about to close the laptop when I noticed the security camera app icon. Jonas had installed the system last year, insisting it was for our safety. I opened the app and scrolled through today's footage. Everything seemed normal until I noticed a gap, a 30-minute window missing from the backyard camera feed. The deletion wasn't accidental. Someone had deliberately removed that segment of footage. My heart began to race. What was I missing? Later that evening, as I tucked Evie into bed, she grabbed my hand with surprising strength. "Please, Mommy, can we sleep somewhere else tonight?" "We're perfectly safe here," I assured her, though I was beginning to wonder. I was about to turn off her light when the shrill bark of our neighbor's German shepherd pierced the quiet. I moved to Evie's window, peering out into the darkness. The motion-activated floodlight in our backyard suddenly illuminated, but the camera feed on my phone showed nothing. Just an empty yard. "See," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just an animal or something." Evie didn't look convinced, but she eventually drifted off to sleep. I, however, stayed awake, listening to every creak and groan of our house, settling for the night. It was just past 2 a.m. when Evie's scream tore through the darkness. I bolted upright, already moving before I was fully conscious. I found her sitting up in bed, eyes wide with terror. "They were in the hallway," she gasped between sobs. I pulled her close, my heart hammering. "It's just the house, baby. Old houses make noises." But as I held my trembling daughter, I found myself staring at the bedroom door, half expecting to see it slowly swing open. Morning couldn't come fast. Enough. Sunlight streamed through Evie's bedroom window, casting warm patterns across her sleeping face. I hadn't left her side after her night terror, eventually falling into a fitful sleep beside her. My neck ached from the awkward position, but my mind was surprisingly clear. Something wasn't right. The forgotten watch, Nicole's comment about seeing Jonas locally when he should have been in Montreal, the deleted security footage, Evie's inexplicable fear. Individually, each could be explained away. Together, they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Evie, and went straight to our bedroom closet. In the back, behind winter coats we rarely used, I kept an emergency bag, a habit from my childhood with an unstable father whose moods could turn on a dime. Inside was $2,000 in cash, copies of our important documents, a prepaid phone, and basic supplies. For 20 minutes, I moved through the house with quiet efficiency, gathering essentials. Clothes for a few days, Evie's favorite stuffed rabbit, my laptop and chargers, prescription, medications. I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen counter. Jonas, Evie has been asking to visit Beth. Taking her to my sister's for a few days. Call you when we arrive. My sister Beth lived in Colorado. We hadn't spoken in over a year after a falling out. But Jonas didn't know that. It would buy us time. Evie, I whispered, gently shaking her awake. We need to get dressed quickly. We're going on a little trip. Her eyes flew open. Because of the bad people? I hesitated. What bad people, sweetheart? The ones Daddy's afraid of. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Are we running away from them? A chill ran down my spine. We're just taking a little vacation now. Hurry up, okay? By 7:30 a.m., we were on the road, heading north instead of west. Not toward Beth in Colorado, but toward my late mother's cottage in Vermont, a place I hadn't visited in years, a place that held difficult memories, but offered the one thing we needed most right now: isolation. We stopped at a gas station 2 towns over. While Evie used the bathroom, I filled the tank, my eyes constantly scanning our surroundings. As I replaced the nozzle, a man approached from the neighboring pump. Average height, brown hair, unremarkable except for the intensity of his gaze. "Excuse me," he said, bumping into me slightly as he passed. His mouth barely moved as he added, "Smart move. Keep moving." Before I could respond, he was walking away, sliding into a blue sedan. I stood frozen, the gas receipt fluttering in my hand. Back in the car, I checked my email on my phone. A new message from Delta Airlines thanking me for my booking. A flight from Boston to Miami departing tomorrow morning. I hadn't made any such booking. "Is everything okay, Mommy?" Evie asked from the back seat, picking up on my tension. "Everything's fine, sweetie." I forced a smile into the rearview mirror. "How about some music?" We drove for hours, stopping only when necessary. I took back roads when possible, avoiding major highways. Evie was unusually quiet, staring out the window at the passing scenery. Occasionally, she'd ask a question that made my heart ache. "Are we never going back? Are you and Daddy fighting? Did I do something wrong?" I answered each with reassurances that felt hollow even to my own ears. The truth was, I didn't know what we were running from, only that my instincts were screaming at me to get away. The cottage came into view as we rounded the final bend in the road. Small and weathered, it sat on the edge of a quiet lake surrounded by pine trees. My mother had left it to me when she died 5 years ago. Jonas had suggested selling it numerous times, but something had always held me back. "Is this where Grandma used to live?" Evie asked as we pulled into the gravel driveway. "Yes, honey. We're going to stay here for a little while." Inside, the cottage smelled of dust and forgotten summers. I opened windows while Evie explored the small rooms. There were 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a living area with a stone fireplace. It would do. In the hall closet, I found the boxes I'd packed after my mother's death, things I couldn't bear to part with but didn't want in our daily life. I pulled down a particular box labeled Photos and began sifting through its contents. Near the bottom, I found what I didn't know I was looking for. A photograph I'd never seen before. Jonas smiling at someone off camera, his arm draped around a woman I didn't recognize. The timestamp in the corner read, "Last month." My phone rang, startling me. Jonas's name flashed on the screen. "Hello." I answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Clarissa, what the hell is going on?" His voice was tight with anger. "Where are you and Evie?" "Didn't you get my note? We're visiting Beth." "I called Beth. She hasn't heard from you." My stomach dropped. "You called my sister?" "Of course I called her. I come home to find you, and Evie gone. A vague note about visiting Beth and neither of you answering your phones. What was I supposed to do?" I took a deep breath. "Jonas, I saw Nicole yesterday. She said she saw you at Riverside Cafe around lunchtime. A pause. That's ridiculous. I was in Montreal. You got the confirmation email. I also found a photo of you with another woman from last month. Another pause. Longer this time. You're being paranoid again, Clarissa. Is that what this is about? You're having another episode. The casual cruelty of his words hit me like a physical blow. Early in our marriage, I'd struggled with anxiety and trust issues rooted in my childhood. Jonas knew this, used it against me. No, Jonas, I said quietly. Evie's been scared. She said you told her we needed to leave. What? That's absurd. Put her on the phone. She's resting. Clarissa, listen to me. Whatever you think is happening, you're wrong. Come home. We'll talk about this. I'm worried about you. His voice had softened, taken on that concerned tone he used when he thought I was being irrational. Once it would have worked. I'll think about it, I said. I need to go. I ended the call before he could respond. My phone immediately dinged with a text from Nicole. Please call me. I didn't know. You were right. Before I could call her back, there was a knock at the door. I froze, my eyes darting to Evie, who was arranging her stuffed animals on the small bed in the second bedroom. Through the front window, I could see the blue sedan from the gas station. The same man stood on the porch, hands in his pockets, expression grim. I grabbed the fireplace poker before approaching the door. Who is it? I called, trying to sound braver than I felt. Alec Rains, he replied. I know your husband, and I think you and your daughter are in danger. I kept the chain on the door as I opened it a crack, the poker hidden behind my back. The man, Alec, stood a respectful distance away, his posture deliberately non-threatening. How did you find us? I demanded. Jonas mentioned this place once. Said it was your escape hatch. His eyes met mine. I took a chance. What do you want? To help you. He glanced over his shoulder. Can I come in? It's not safe to talk out here. Every instinct told me to shut the door to call the police. But then I thought of the deleted security footage, the strange flight booking in my name, Evie's inexplicable fear. Wait here, I said, closing the door. I checked on Evie, finding her absorbed in a picture book she'd found on the shelf, then returned to the door. I removed the chain, but kept the poker visible as I let him in. Make it quick, I said, keeping my voice low. My daughter doesn't need any more stress. Alec nodded, taking a seat at the small kitchen table only when I gestured for him to do so. Your husband isn't who you think he is, he began without preamble. And now that you're gone, they'll come after you both. Who's they? The people Jonas works with. His real employers. I gripped the poker tighter. Jonas works for Meridian Consulting. He's a logistics specialist. Alec gave me a sad smile. That's his cover. For the past 3 years, he's been involved in something much more lucrative and illegal. Smuggling high-end counterfeit goods hidden in diplomatic shipments. That's ridiculous. But even as I said it, I thought of the folder on Jonas's laptop. K2, the shipping manifests, the invoices for companies I'd never heard of. Is it? Alec reached into his jacket, moving slowly to show he wasn't a threat, and pulled out a phone. This is Jonas's second phone. He dropped it at the gas station when he was meeting with a man named Victor. I picked it up before he realized it was gone. I stared at the device, a basic burner phone, nothing like the iPhone Jonas carried everywhere. How do I know this is his? Check the messages. I took the phone, scrolling through texts filled with coded language and references to large sums of money. One thread contained several photos. Shipping containers, manifest documents, and in one, our house. Why are you showing me this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because Jonas has stored sensitive materials in your name, putting you legally on the hook if things go south. And things are going south. Alec leaned forward. There's a missing accountant. The police are involved now. It's only a matter of time before they connect the dots. My mind raced, trying to fit this new information into what I already knew. Evie, I said suddenly. She said Jonas told her we needed to leave, that I would understand. Alec nodded. He's been planning his exit strategy. The question is whether that strategy included you. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. I need to make a call. I stepped onto the back porch, closing the door behind me. Nicole answered on the first ring. Clarissa, thank God. Are you okay? Is Evie with you? We're fine. I kept my voice steady. What did you mean in your text? What didn't you know? A long pause. I've been sleeping with Jonas. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the porch railing to stay upright. It wasn't serious, Nicole continued, her words tumbling out. It started at the Christmas party. I was drunk, feeling lonely after the divorce. It just happened, but I ended it 3 weeks ago when I found out about his other dealings. What dealings? He asked me to notarize some documents for a storage unit rental. The paperwork had your signature on it, but it didn't look right. When I questioned him, he got angry, said it was none of my business. Then I overheard him on the phone talking about moving product through customs. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. Jonas's late-night phone calls, the unexplained cash deposits, the sudden insistence on a home security system. Did you know he has another phone? I asked. Yes. He always kept it in his car. I thought it was for work. And you saw him yesterday at Riverside Cafe? Yes. He was with a man I'd never seen before. They were arguing. I ended the call after extracting a promise from Nicole to tell no one where we were. Back inside, I found Alex sitting exactly where I'd left him. But now Evie stood in the kitchen doorway, watching him with curious eyes. Who are you? She asked. A friend, Alec replied simply. I used to work with your dad. Evie's eyes narrowed slightly. Did you come to take us home? No, sweetheart, I intervened. Mr. Rains is just helping us with something. Why don't you go back to your book while we talk? She hesitated, then said in a small voice, Is it about the bad thing Daddy did? My blood ran cold. What bad thing, Evie? I heard him talking on his special phone. He said he needed to get rid of the problem. She twisted her hands in her shirt. I thought he meant me. I crossed the room and knelt before her. No, baby. No. Your daddy would never hurt you. Even as I said the words, I wasn't sure they were true anymore. After getting Evie settled with a snack and the portable DVD player, I returned to the kitchen. Alec had brewed coffee and slid a mug toward me. I've been in touch with a detective, he said quietly. Max Hellstrom. He's investigating the disappearance of an accountant named Philip Taylor. Taylor handled the books for several shell companies Jonas used. You went to the police. My voice rose slightly. Not about you, about Jonas and his associates. But Hellstrom is smart. He'll make the connection to you eventually. Better to cooperate now than be caught in the fallout. My phone rang again. Jonas. I let it go to voicemail. Seconds later, a text appeared. You're going to ruin everything. Do you even know what you're running from? The phone rang again immediately. This time an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Mrs. Wren, this is Detective Max Hellstrom. The voice was deep, authoritative. I need to speak with you regarding your husband's business dealings. How did you get this number? Your friend, Nicole, Hartley provided it. She's quite concerned about you. I shot Alec a look. He appeared as surprised as I was. Mrs. Wren, I understand you're frightened. But if you don't cooperate, you may be arrested as a co-conspirator. There are documents with your signature on them. Forgeries, I said automatically. That may be, but we need to verify that in person. Where are you currently? I ended the call without answering, my hands shaking. We need to go, I told Alec. Now. Wait. He held up a hand. Think. If Hellstrom contacted you, it means he already has enough to move on Jonas. Running makes you look guilty. I don't care how it looks. I need to protect my daughter. Alec nodded slowly. There might be another way. A way to clear your name and make sure Jonas can't hurt either of you again. I'm listening. You mentioned a crawl space. Check it before we decide anything. The crawl space access was in the back of the coat closet, a small square door that led to the area beneath the cottage. With a flashlight borrowed from the kitchen drawer, I crawled in, cobwebs brushing against my face. In the far corner, partially hidden behind an old steamer trunk, I found a metal box I didn't recognize. Inside were stacks of cash, 2 passports with our photos but different names, and a handwritten list of addresses. Jonas had been planning to run, to disappear. The question was, had he intended to take us with him, or had we become, as Evie had overheard, the problem he needed to get rid of? Back in the kitchen, I spread the contents of the box on the table. Alec examined the passports, his expression grim. High quality fakes, he said. Expensive. He was planning to run. I said, the reality of it finally sinking in. Yes, and now you have a choice to make. As I stared the evidence of my husband's secret life, I realized I'd been living with a stranger. Every moment of our marriage, every kiss, every promise, all built on lies. The man I'd loved, the father of my child, was someone I'd never really known at all. Call Detective Hellstrom, I said. My decision made. Tell him I'll cooperate. Detective Max Hellstrom looked nothing like I expected. No rumpled trench coat or world-weary expression. Instead, he wore a crisp, button-down shirt and khakis, his salt and pepper hair neatly trimmed. Only the deep lines around his eyes hinted at a career spent confronting the darker sides of human nature. We met at a roadside diner 30 minutes from the cottage, a neutral location Alec had suggested. Evie sat in a corner booth with chocolate milk and crayons, far enough away that she couldn't hear our conversation, but close enough that I could keep her in my sight line. Alec had stayed behind at the cottage, promising to keep watch. Mrs. Wren, Hellstrom said, sliding into the booth across from me. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I'm here because I want answers, I replied, wrapping my hands around a mug of lukewarm coffee. And because I need to protect my daughter. Hellstrom nodded, his expression softening slightly as he glanced at Evie. I understand. For what it's worth, I believe you're innocent in all this, but I need your help to prove it. I slid the passports and cash across the table. I found these hidden in our vacation home. There are more documents on his laptop, a second phone with messages about shipments and payments. Hellstrom examined the passports, his face betraying nothing. When did you first suspect something was wrong? I told him everything. The forgotten watch, Nicole's sighting, the deleted security footage, Evie's warnings. With each detail, the bizarre reality of my situation became clearer. My husband, the man I'd shared a bed with for 7 years, had been living a double life. The counterfeit operation is sophisticated, Hellstrom explained. Your husband and his associates have been smuggling high-end replicas, watches, designer handbags, electronics, hidden in legitimate shipments. They've moved millions worth of merchandise over the past 3 years. And the missing accountant, Philip Taylor, disappeared 4 days ago. His wife reported it. We found evidence that he'd been skimming from the operation. Last person he was seen with was your husband. My stomach lurched. You think Jonas. Hellstrom's expression remained neutral. We don't know yet, but given what you've told me, I'd say your husband was planning an exit strategy. The question is whether Taylor's disappearance accelerated those plans. I glanced at Evie, who was carefully coloring within the lines of her children's menu. What happens now? Now, Hellstrom said, leaning forward. We need to set a trap, and you're the bait. The plan was straightforward, but terrifying. I would contact Jonas, tell him I was scared and confused, ask him to explain everything. Meanwhile, federal agents would trace the call and monitor our conversation, gathering evidence directly from Jonas's own mouth. It was risky. If Jonas suspected anything, He might disappear for good, taking any chance of justice with him. I can't do this from the cottage, I said. He might know about that location. We've arranged a hotel room in Burlington, Hellstrom replied. Secure, monitored. You and your daughter will be safe there. And Alec? Where does he fit into all this? Hellstrom's expression darkened slightly. Mr. Rains has been cooperating with us for some time. He worked with your husband briefly before realizing the nature of the operation. Instead of walking away, he came to us. Can I trust him? As much as you can trust anyone right now. That wasn't exactly reassuring, but I had little choice. As we prepared to leave the diner, I sent Alec a text with our new location. His response came immediately. Be careful. We'll meet you there tonight. The Burlington hotel room was bland and impersonal, but after the emotional roller coaster of the past 48 hours, its very anonymity felt comforting. Evie explored the room with cautious curiosity while I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. You don't have to do this today, Hellstrom said from his position by the window. We can wait. No, I said firmly. I need answers now. I dialed Jonas's number, my heart hammering against my ribs. He answered on the second ring. Clarissa, where are you? Are you okay? His voice, so familiar, so concerned, made my throat tighten. For a moment, I almost believed we were still the couple I thought we were, that this was just a misunderstanding. I'm scared, Jonas, I said, letting the very real tremor in my voice work to my advantage. I don't know what's happening. Please just tell me the truth. A pause. Where's Evie? She's with me. She's fine. I took a deep breath. Jonas, I found the passports, the cash. I know about the second phone. Another pause, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, hardened. You've been going through my things. I had to. Nothing was making sense. I gripped the phone tighter. Who are you, Jonas? Really? I'm the same man you married, he said, his tone suddenly weary. Just with a more complicated job than you realized. Smuggling isn't a job. It's a crime. He laughed, a short, bitter sound. You think it's that simple? Black and white. The world runs on gray areas, Clarissa. Always has. And Philip Taylor, is he a gray area too? The silence that followed was deafening. Hellstrom gave me a thumbs up from across the room, encouraging me to continue. I don't know what you're talking about, Jonas finally said, his voice carefully controlled. The missing accountant, the one you were last seen with before he disappeared. Who's been filling your head with this garbage? That friend of yours, Nicole. His voice rose slightly. Or maybe it's Alec Rains. Has he found you yet? I fought to keep my expression neutral, though Hellstrom couldn't miss the alarm in my eyes. How do you know about Alec? Because he's been trying to take me down for months, Jonas snapped. He's using you, Clarissa. Using our family like he used my name on those storage units, the ones across multiple states that I knew nothing about. That stopped him. I could almost see him calculating, reassessing. I was protecting you, he said finally, keeping you clean in case things went sideways. Things have gone sideways, Jonas. The police are investigating. They know about the counterfeits. What have you told them? His voice was dangerously quiet now. Nothing yet, but I will unless you explain everything now. For the next 20 minutes, Jonas talked about how he'd been recruited 3 years ago by a former client, about how easy it had been to hide counterfeit goods in legitimate shipments, about the money, so much money, and how he'd convinced himself it was victimless, just corporations losing a fraction of their billions. What he didn't mention was Philip Taylor, or the passports, or why Evie had been so afraid. Come home, he said finally. We can figure this out together. I have money set aside. We can disappear. Start fresh somewhere new with fake passports, new identities. It would be an adventure, he said. And the terrifying thing was, I could hear the genuine excitement in his voice. A clean slate for all of us. I found the key, I said abruptly. It was a bluff, but something in Jonas's silence told me I'd hit on something real. What key? He asked carefully. You know exactly what key and what it opens. Another long pause. Where are you, Clarissa? Let me come to you. We need to talk face to face. Hellstrom was shaking his head vigorously. I need time to think, I said. I'll call you tomorrow. I ended the call before he could respond, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. You did well, Hellstrom said, crossing the room to sit beside me. We got enough to justify a search warrant for those storage units you mentioned. He knows about Alec, I said. The implications sinking in. How could he know unless someone told him? Hellstrom finished grimly. We may have a leak. That night, after Evie had fallen asleep in the hotel bed, I stood by the window watching the parking lot below. Alec had texted that he was running late, that I shouldn't worry. But I did worry. If Jonas knew about Alec's involvement, was anyone truly safe? My phone chimed with a new email from Jonas. No subject line. The body contained only an address and the words, "See for yourself." I stared at the address, trying to place it. It wasn't our home. It wasn't the cottage. It was somewhere in the neighboring town, about 30 minutes away. Another chime. A second email from Jonas. This one contained a single image. A photo of me and Evie at the park from last summer. But it hadn't been taken by Jonas. The angle was wrong, the distance too far. We'd been photographed without knowing it. More photos followed. Evie at school. Me shopping at the grocery store. Both of us getting into the car outside Nicole's house. All taken by someone watching us, documenting our movements. The final email contained just 4 words. I was protecting you. From what? From whom? The question swirled in my mind as a new, horrible understanding began to take shape. What if Jonas hadn't been planning to run from the law, but from something or someone else? As I stood frozen by the window, a car pulled into the hotel parking lot. A blue sedan. Alec. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by doubt. Could I trust anyone? My phone rang. Nicole, have you heard from Alec? I asked immediately. No, she sounded confused. Listen, I've been going through some of Jonas's old papers, things he left at my place. There's something you need to know about your father's company. My father's company? It went bankrupt years ago. That's what Jonas told you, Nicole said. But, according to these documents, he was involved in the takeover. He was working with the buyers before you even met him. The implication hit me like a physical blow. Are you saying he targeted me? That our entire relationship was what? A business strategy? I don't know, Nicole admitted, but it doesn't look good. As we spoke, I watched Alec cross the parking lot toward the hotel entrance. The pieces were beginning to fit together, forming a picture I didn't want to see. I have to go, I told Nicole abruptly. Don't tell anyone we spoke. I woke Hellstrom, who had been dozing in the armchair by the door. We need to move, I said urgently. Now. What's happened? Alec is here, and I think he might be working with Jonas. The service elevator smelled of cleaning supplies and stale cigarettes. Evie, still half asleep, clung to my hand as we descended to the hotel's basement level. Hellstrom led the way, his hand never far from the gun holstered at his hip. You're sure about this? He asked again. It's a serious accusation. The emails Jonas sent, they were photos of us being followed. Professional surveillance. Who else could have taken them? Could be anyone in the organization. Jonas's partners, associates. But Alec found us at the cottage. Jonas said he was trying to take him down. What if that was the lie? What if they're working together? The elevator doors opened onto a dimly lit corridor. Hellstrom guided us through a series of maintenance hallways until we reached a service exit that led to the employee parking area. My car's just around the corner, he said. Stay close. As we stepped outside, The cool night air raised goosebumps on my arms. Evie was fully awake now, her eyes wide with fear, but remarkably no tears. My brave girl had seen too much in the past 2 days to be frightened by a midnight escape. We reached Hellstrom's unmarked sedan without incident. As he unlocked the doors, a shadow detached itself from the darkness beyond the parking lot's edge. "Clarissa!" Jonas stepped into the pool of light cast by a security lamp. He wore the same clothes I'd seen him in the morning he left. Dark jeans, a gray pullover. His face was haggard, the stubble on his jaw evidence of sleepless nights. Hellstrom drew his weapon in one smooth motion. "Jonas Wren, stop right there." Jonas raised his hand slowly. "I'm not armed. I just need to talk to my wife." I pushed Evie behind me. "How did you find us?" "The same way I found out about Alec," Jonas said, his eyes never leaving mine. "I've been tracking her phone since the day we met." The casual admission stunned me into silence. "It was for your protection," he continued, as if that explained everything. "You never knew the kind of people your father was involved with, the kind of enemies he made." "My father was a failed businessman who drank himself to death," I said flatly. "Your father was laundering money for the Kane family," Jonas countered. "When he tried to keep some for himself, they came after him. The bankruptcy, the drinking, it was all aftermath." Hellstrom kept his gun trained on Jonas. "This is a fascinating story, Mr. Wren, but it doesn't explain the counterfeit operation or the missing accountant." "I needed resources," Jonas said simply. "Protection costs money. A lot of it." "Jonas," I said, finding my voice, "are you trying to tell me that our entire marriage, our whole life together, was some kind of witness protection program?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "It didn't start that way. I was hired to keep an eye on you. Yes, the Kanes were worried you might have access to accounts or information your father left behind. But then I met you and you fell in love." I finished bitterly. "How convenient." "It's the truth," he insisted. "Ask Evie. She knows I love you both. Why else would I warn her? Why else would I tell her to get you out of the house?" I glanced down at my daughter, who was watching her father with an unreadable expression. "You told Evie we needed to leave after I saw Victor Kane in town." Jonas nodded. "I knew they'd found us. I couldn't come home. They were watching me. But I called Evie from a burner phone while she was at school. Told her to tell you we had to go." "Daddy said the bad men were coming," Evie said, quietly, speaking for the first time since we'd left the hotel room. "He said we had to run away." Hellstrom's expression remained skeptical. "And the missing accountant, Philip Taylor?" "He's at a safe house in New Hampshire," Jonas replied. "He was skimming from the operation." "Yes, but not for himself. He was being blackmailed by the Kanes. When he came to me for help, I got him out. The evidence is at the storage unit," Jonas continued. "The one at the address I sent you. Taylor kept records of everything. The blackmail, the threats. It implicates Victor Kane and his entire operation. That's what I was trying to protect." Hellstrom finally lowered his weapon slightly. "And Alec Rains, where does he fit into all this?" Jonas's expression hardened. "Rains works for the Kanes. Always has. He's been playing both sides, feeding information to Victor while pretending to help the feds. If he's found you, you're already in danger." As if summoned by his name, headlights swept across the parking lot. The blue sedan pulled to a stop 20 yards away. Alec stepped out, silhouetted against the headlights. "Well, isn't this a touching family reunion?" he called out, his voice carrying in the night air. "Sorry, I'm late to the party." Hellstrom raised his gun again, this time aimed at Alec. "Stay where you are, Rains." Alec laughed, a cold sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You know, Jonas, you really should have just taken the money and walked away. Victor was willing to let bygones be bygones, but you had to play the hero." "Get in the car," Jonas whispered urgently to me. "Take Evie and go now." "No one's going anywhere," Alec called out. And now there was a gun in his hand, too. Victor wants to speak with all of you, especially little Evie, who apparently knows more than she should. Something inside me snapped at the threat to my daughter. Without thinking, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the flare gun I'd found in the cottage's emergency kit and brought with me as an impromptu weapon. Before anyone could stop me, I aimed it at the sky and pulled the trigger. The flare shot upward with a high-pitched whistle, exploding in a burst of red light that illuminated the parking lot like midday. In the momentary distraction, Hellstrom tackled Alec to the ground. Jonas grabbed my arm, pulling me and Evie toward Hellstrom's car. The storage unit, he gasped as we ran. Everything you need is there. The evidence against Victor, the money, everything. Come with us, I urged, surprising myself. He shook his head. I'll only lead them to you. Besides, he glanced back at the struggling figures of Hellstrom and Alec. Someone needs to make sure he doesn't get away. It was the last unselfish act in a relationship built on deception. As Jonas ran back to help Hellstrom, I bundled Evie into the car, grabbed the keys Hellstrom had dropped, and peeled out of the parking lot. In the rearview mirror, I saw flashing lights approaching. The local police responding to the flare, and beyond them, another set of headlights moving fast. We were being followed. Hang on, sweetheart, I told Evie, who was clutching her stuffed rabbit with white-knuckled hands. This is going to be a bumpy ride. I drove like a woman possessed, taking random turns through the small town's empty streets, trying to lose our tail. The address Jonas had sent burned in my memory. The storage facility was less than 10 minutes away. If I could just shake our pursuer. Mommy, Evie's voice was small but steady. I know a shortcut. What? From when Daddy took me for ice cream. There's a back road by the train tracks. I'd forgotten that Jonas had brought Evie to this town before. Another family trip I now had to reevaluate through the lens of his deception. But in this moment, my daughter's memory was our salvation. Following Evie's directions, I turned down a narrow service road that ran parallel to the railroad tracks. The headlights behind us briefly disappeared, then reappeared, more distant now. The Gambit had bought us precious minutes. The storage facility loomed ahead, a grid of metal units surrounded by chain-link fencing. I punched in the gate code Jonas had included in his email and drove through, parking in the shadows between two rows of units. Stay in the car, I told Evie firmly. Lock the doors. If anyone but me comes back, use this. I handed her my phone. Call 911. Unit 217 was at the far end of the complex. I ran toward it, the key I'd found in Jonas's desk drawer clutched in my palm. Behind me, I heard car engine. Our pursuer had found the storage facility. The key slid into the lock smoothly. The metal door rolled upward with a rattling groan that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet night. Inside, a single bare bulb illuminated a space packed with file boxes and a large metal safe. I grabbed the nearest box and tore it open. Inside were folders filled with documents, shipping manifests, customs declarations, bank statements, evidence of the counterfeit operation, yes, but also of something larger. Names I recognized from news reports, politicians, business leaders, all connected to Victor Kane. The safe was unlocked, its door slightly ajar, as if someone had recently accessed it. Inside were stacks of cash, a laptop, and a USB drive labeled insurance. Footsteps approached outside. I shoved the USB drive into my pocket and braced myself, looking for a weapon among the storage unit's contents. My hand closed around a heavy flashlight just as a figure appeared in the doorway. Clarissa! Thank God. It was Nicole, her blonde hair wild, her eyes wide with fear. I followed you from the hotel. Are you okay? Where's Evie? Relief flooded through me. She's in the car. We need to get this evidence to the police. Jonas is fine, Nicole interrupted, stepping into the unit. Hellstrom arrested Alec. It's over. Something in her tone set off alarm bells. How do you know that? And how did you find us at the hotel? Nicole's expression shifted, hardened. You're not the only one Jonas confided in. Before I could react, she pulled a gun from her jacket pocket. I'm sorry, Clarissa. I really am. But Victor can't afford to have this evidence get out. Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. You're working for the Canes. Everyone works for someone, she said with a shrug. Jonas should have remembered that, even when you were sleeping with him. Especially then. I asked, stalling for time, my grip tightening on the flashlight behind my back. Nicole gestured with the gun. The USB drive. Hand it over. It's in the safe, I lied. Behind the cash. As Nicole glanced toward the safe, I swung the flashlight with all my strength, catching her wrist. The gun clattered to the concrete floor. Nicole lunged for it, but I was faster, kicking it away and tackling her to the ground. We struggled in the confined space, knocking over boxes, sending papers flying. Nicole was stronger than her slim frame suggested, but I had the advantage of maternal desperation. With one powerful shove, I sent her sprawling backward into the metal shelving unit. It teetered for a heart-stopping moment before crashing down, pinning her beneath it. I grabbed the gun and backed out of the unit, slamming the door closed and using a nearby padlock to secure it. Nicole's muffled shouts followed me as I ran back to the car. Evie was exactly where I'd left her, the phone clutched in her tiny hands. Mommy, I called 911 like you said. They're coming. I gathered her into a fierce hug, tears streaming down my face. You did perfectly, sweetheart. Perfectly. As police sirens wailed in the distance, I held my daughter close. The USB drive heavy in my pocket, the evidence that would free us from Jonas's web of lies, the key to our future. The courthouse steps were cold beneath my feet as I emerged into the October sunlight. After 3 months of depositions, evidence reviews, and legal wrangling, it was finally over. My testimony had secured Jonas a reduced sentence in exchange for his cooperation against Victor Kane and his organization. Nicole faced charges of conspiracy and attempted murder, and I was officially cleared of any wrongdoing. Mrs. Rynn, Detective Hellstrom stood at the bottom of the steps, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. The investigation had catapulted his career from small-town detective to federal task force liaison. It's Ms. Walker now, I reminded him, having reclaimed my maiden name as soon as the divorce papers were finalized. How are you, detective? Better than expected. He fell into step beside me as we walked toward the parking lot. The Kane investigation has expanded to 3 states. Your ex-husband's testimony has been invaluable, and Philip Taylor is still in protective custody for now. Once the trials are over, he'll get a new identity, a fresh start. Hellstrom glanced at me. Speaking of fresh starts, what's next for you and Evie? I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. We're moving. I sold the house and the cottage. Too many memories. Where to? That's our secret, I said with a gentle finality. After everything we'd been through, privacy felt like a precious commodity. Hellstrom nodded, understanding. Take care of yourself, Ms. Walker, and that remarkable daughter of yours. I intend to. Nicole's house had been sold, the for sale sign already replaced with a cheerful sold banner. As I drove past, I wondered if the new owners would ever know about the drama that had unfolded in their new neighborhood. Probably not. Suburbs were good at keeping secrets. I pulled into the driveway of what had once been my dream home, now just a shell, waiting to be filled with another family's hopes. Evie was at school, her new school, where no one knew her as the daughter of a criminal, where she could just be a kid again. Inside, most of our belongings had already been packed and moved to storage. What remained were the things I couldn't bring myself to keep, but couldn't quite throw away. Jonas's clothes, our wedding album, the watch he'd forgotten that fateful morning, the small detail that had started it all. I placed the watch in a small box along with the last of his personal effects. No note, no explanation needed. His lawyer would collect it later that week. My phone rang, the temporary number I'd been using since discarding my old one. Few people had it. Hello. Clarissa. Jonas's voice was tiny, distant. Prison calls always sounded like they were coming from the bottom of a well. I heard today was the final hearing. It was. I sat on the empty living room floor, surrounded by the ghosts of our former life. You've been officially sentenced. 5 years. He sounded resigned. Could have been worse. Much worse. A long pause filled the line. There was so much unsaid between us. So many questions still unanswered. But in the end, did the details really matter? The result was the same. Our marriage, our life together, had been built on quicksand. How's Evie? He asked finally. She's doing better. The therapist says she's processing everything remarkably well for her age. She's strong, like her mother. I closed my eyes against the unexpected compliment. Jonas, why are you calling? Another pause. I found something. When they were processing my personal effects, the watch you gave me, it's gone. I have it, I admitted. You left it behind that morning. Keep it, he said quietly. Sell it. Whatever you want. I'm giving it to your lawyer. Of course, his voice was flat now, accepting. Clarissa, I know you won't believe this, but not everything was a lie. What I felt for you, for both of you, that was real. I thought of all the years we'd shared, the quiet moments, the laughter, the 1,000 small intimacies that make up a marriage. Had it all been counterfeit, like the goods he smuggled? Or was there a kernel of truth buried beneath the deception? Goodbye, Jonas, I said softly and ended the call. Later that afternoon, I picked Evie up from school. Her face lit up when she saw me waiting in the pickup line, and she ran toward me with the unself-conscious joy only children can muster. Mommy, I got a gold star on my drawing. I knelt to hug her, breathing in the scent of school glue and strawberry shampoo. That's wonderful, sweetie. Can I see it? She pulled a slightly crumpled paper from her backpack. On it, she'd drawn 3 figures, a woman with brown hair, a small girl, and what appeared to be a dog. It's us, she explained. You and me and the puppy we're going to get at our new house. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, we're getting a puppy, are we? Yep. She nodded with absolute certainty. A golden one named Buddy. Well, we'll have to see about that. I took her hand as we walked to the car. How was the rest of your day? As Evie chattered about recess and math problems and her new friend Zoe, I marveled at her resilience. Children adapted, survived, moved forward. Perhaps adults could learn from that. Our new home was 3 states away, a small house near the coast where the air smelled of salt and possibilities. I'd already secured a job with a local legal aid office, putting my paralegal skills to use, helping others navigate the system. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but maybe it would be better. Are we going to the new house today? Evie asked sleepily as I buckled her into her seat. Not yet. We have one more stop to make. We drove to the edge of town to a quiet cemetery where my mother had been laid to rest years before. I hadn't visited in too long, allowing Jonas's discomfort with the place to keep me away. Another small betrayal in a mountain of them. Evie helped me place flowers on the simple headstone. I don't remember Grandma, she said solemnly. You were very little when she died, I explained, but she loved you very much. We sat on the grass beside the grave, enjoying the unusually warm October afternoon. Evie picked dandelions while I silently updated my mother on everything that had happened. It felt right, somehow, coming full circle before we left this place for good. Mommy! Evie's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Are you still sad about Daddy? I considered the question carefully. I'm sad about what happened, about the things he did, but I'm not sad about our future. We're going to be okay, she nodded, accepting this with the simple wisdom of childhood. He told me we had to be brave. That day on the phone, he said you were the bravest person he knew. My throat tightened. Did he say anything else? Evie twirled a dandelion between her fingers. He said, sometimes you have to leave to keep the people you love safe, and that you would understand because you're smart. And he was right, I said, blinking back tears. You were very brave to tell me we needed to leave. You probably saved both of us. She shrugged, already moving on to other thoughts the way children do. Can we get ice cream before we go? I laughed, the sound surprising me with its genuine joy. Absolutely. 1 week later, we stood on the porch of our new home, watching the movers unload the last of our belongings. The house was small but perfect. A pale blue cottage with white trim and a view of the ocean from the upstairs windows. Far from our old life, far from the memories, far from the lies. A package had been waiting on the doorstep when we arrived. No return address, just my name and unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single item, Jonas's watch and a note. Some things are worth keeping. Stay ready just in case. Alec Rains had disappeared after his arrest, presumably into witness protection. That he had found us was concerning, but the message seemed more warning than threat. Stay ready just in case. I slipped the watch into a drawer in my new bedroom and locked it. The past secured but not forgotten. That evening, Evie and I walked down to the beach, collecting shells and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. She ran ahead, chasing seagulls, her laughter carried away by the wind. "Mommy, look!" she called, pointing to something in the distance. A golden retriever bounded across the sand, followed by its owner, a woman about my age with a friendly smile. "Sorry," she called as the dog approached us. "He's friendly, just curious." "What's his name?" Evie asked, already kneeling to pet the animal. "Buddy," the woman replied. Evie shot me a triumphant look. I could only shake my head and laugh. As we walked home in the gathering twilight, Evie's hand warm in mine, I thought about all we'd been through, the betrayals, the danger, the heartbreak, but also the strength we'd found, the truth we'd uncovered, the future we'd reclaimed. "Are you happy here, Mommy?" Evie asked sleepily as I tucked her into bed that night. I brushed the hair from her forehead. This child who had saved me in more ways than one. "Yes, sweetheart, I am." "Me too," she murmured, already drifting toward sleep. I stood in the doorway of her new room, watching her breathe, feeling a peace I hadn't known in months. Perhaps Jonas had been right about one thing. Sometimes you have to leave to keep the people you love safe. But he'd been wrong about the rest. Safety wasn't found in secrets and lies. It wasn't in hiding from the truth. True safety came from seeing things as they really were and facing them head-on. I quietly closed Evie's door and walked to the small balcony off my bedroom. The ocean spread before me, vast and unknowable in the darkness, its waves a constant, soothing rhythm against the shore. In the distance, lights from passing ships dotted the horizon, each on its own journey, just like us. I pulled my sweater tighter against the sea breeze and smiled.